Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome once again to the Wade in the Water show. Tonight, goodness, it is Wednesday. I have to look at the calendar. The days have kind of been blending together. It is Wednesday, March 9th. We are in season 2, episode 9. Let's get some love, you guys. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a smiley face. Give us a frown if you like. Remember when Magic gave us the frown, Jess? It was like, what is going on? We stopped the show.
It was heartbreaking, but we fixed it.
It was crazy. Hi, guys. My name is Weldon. I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, live from Texas.
Hello, everyone. It's Jessica Lee.
We're here. We're here once again to talk all about diving. The show is by divers, for divers. Just looking at my show notes, you guys, and I'm switching up some of the stuff here behind the scenes. We've got on camera background. There we go. Thanks you to all 21 of you that are on our live broadcast. Guessing we look good, we sound good, and then some scuba diving checks. We taste the air, so we'd say like breathes fine, tastes fine, and we'll probably talk about that later. But I think we look good, smell good. I smell good. Got like Molecular One on. I got a little bit of Spice Bomb. I thought I'd jazz things up for you guys tonight. You probably smell me through your phones or through your laptops. I think I don't know. I'm being extra crazy, you guys. Shout out to our amazing and wonderful sponsors that make this show possible. We bring it live and direct to you guys every Wednesday night. Maybe more often in the future. Don't know. But shout out to Bermuda International and Blue Wave that are on deck as sponsors. And we have a growing list of supporters. We have Atlantic Mooring Maintenance Limited. We've got Ubervida. We've got Current Vehicles. And we have Mammoth Lakes, Texas over there in Texas, over in Jess's turf. And Jess, anyone else you want to shout out as a supporter? I mean, we've got a growing base, I think, of people jumping on deck and helping us bring this show to you guys.
Yeah, and if you guys want to join that, if you want to become a supporter or a sponsor, let us know.
Please. And I'm going to just bring up our we're powered by StreamYard here, so there's a lot of things going on. So I just put up our display names. Guys, if you don't already, please follow our sponsors and our supporters, and certainly Jess and I. We have our handles up on the screen at Diving with Jess and at Weldon Wade. We're all across social. Google us, and I'm sure we'll show up. I haven't actually Googled myself in a while. It's nice to kind of do that because you figure like if you go for a new job or you meet someone, the first thing they're going to do is Google you, and it's kind of crazy if something like gnarly comes up and you're like, I don't know how you fix that. I've never had to fix that, but there's something that my mentor, because I tell you guys, my tip for last week was find a mentor. I do have a mentor that's in diving and a mentor that's out of diving, and my mentor that's out of diving constantly enforces the ABCD: appearance, behavior, communication, and digital footprint. So you always want to make sure that you got all those things in check, and your digital footprint would be how you appear on LinkedIn, how you appear on social media. All that's got to be tight. As an adult, you want to keep things kosher. But yeah, I mean, you guys know who we are. Tonight's topic, I'm going to bring that up, is going to be beyond open water. What do you do, once you achieve this first level of diving certification, and why? But before we get into the topic, I'm going to queue up our super fun segment that we introduced last week. Trivia, tip, and friend to follow. Now, Jess, do you remember who did you go first last week?
I think so. I think I did.
Have I missed anything so far?
Not
No.
that I know of.
I think I hit all the boxes. I think I checked most of the boxes. Guys, the show is live right now, but it is available on replay. So if you can only kind of jump in for a minute and then leave and then come back later or tomorrow or next week or whatever, live.weldonwade.com or find at the Wade in the Water show all across social too. Please engage with the new stuff because it helps the channel grow and it gives us the encouragement we need to kind of keep pushing through and bring this show to you. But I think I'm happy to kick off this
Yeah, go for it.
this bit. So guys, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you my trivia of the week right now with the answer at the end of the show, and I'll give you my short and small and sweet to the point tip of the week in diving. Obviously, this is a show about diving and ocean and stuff. And then I'll feature my friend to follow. So let's get into it. My trivia for this episode is going to be all about depth. So we tend to depth is serious business in diving, and the deeper you go, the more interesting things can get. But there is a limit to how deep scuba divers should go recreationally. So if you can let us know how deep recreational scuba divers are allowed via certification, and safety and all those protocols to go, let me know. You can put it in feet or in meters. So that is my trivia. Let me know how deep scuba divers can go within limits based on the PADI diving agency standards. And my tip, I think I forgot what my tip of the week was. Did I already? My tip of the week. My tip of the week for new divers, divers that are very new to the space, and I'm gonna guess that if you're tuned into this episode, chances are you are open water certified or you're keen to get into scuba diving and your open water certification is your first level. I would say don't be afraid to ask questions of the divers around you that are more experienced than you. Now, I know that's a bit of a repeat to a conversation I think Jess and I might have had with JD, where we fleshed out this in depth. But a lot of times in anything, whether it's salsa dancing, whether it's motocross racing, tennis, golf, any hobby or form of recreation or sport, you kind of might be a little nervous to ask those epic dancers or golfers or tennis players for guidance. And my tip would be, please just don't. You'll save yourself so much time, money, energy, and effort by simply asking questions of those around you that to you appear, more senior than you. And that sort of ties in to my first tip from last week, which is, find a mentor. So, yep, certainly find a mentor and then ask questions of those around you. Now, my friend to follow is no stranger to the blue space around the region. I'm gonna just share the screen. My friend to follow for season 2, episode 9. Next week is our last show for the season.
Season finale.
Goodness, let's share this. No stranger. Let's get let's just get that out of the way. Get that banner moved. Is the wonderful Miss Danny Washington, aka the Mocha Mermaid, aka the co-founder of Big Blue and You. So, guys, please don't leave the show, but open up a new tab or jump over to Instagram and please follow Miss Danny Washington and her Mocha Mermaid and Big Blue and You. She's doing phenomenal work. I've been following Danny for years, and she is an actual role. I think she might know this. I don't know if I've actually told her, but she is a role model to me, and how I move through the space between having a business, running a nonprofit, and being on camera and doing cool things like this. So shout out to you, Danny. That is my Danny is my friend to follow. Boom.
Nice.
Did I do it?
Yeah.
Nice. That's exciting.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, go ahead, follow her. She's fantastic. I really enjoy all the content she puts out. So
yeah, she's great.
All right. So my trivia question for this week is going to be, what are the most common percent of nitrox? So we're going to be talking about nitrox a little bit later today, but just so you guys, so there's different percent of oxygen and nitrox. So what are the two most common for that? So let me know what your guesses are, and we'll give you guys the answer at the end of the show.
Nice. And certainly divers, the 47 or so of you that are on the live, and again, thank you so much. I can't thank you guys enough. I might thank you guys 10 more times throughout the show. But nitrox is, it's been in the PADI training manuals for ages. At one point, it was like years ago, it was considered like a voodoo gas, and
Yes, the
there was
voodoo
a
gas.
whole bit about adding more oxygen to your gas to change your whole dive profile, your no decompression time, and all that type of stuff. Unfortunately, in Bermuda, should you guys be watching our show and thinking, "Ooh, let me come to Bermuda," and based on Jessica's trivia question, ask for nitrox, it's, you got to know a guy. None of the local dive shops offer nitrox at this time. Jess, your friend to follow.
All right. So my friend to follow is going to be Andre Musgrove. So he is a really, really talented photographer. This is my second photographer. Actually, would you mind pulling that for me, Weldon? I wasn't fast enough. I didn't get it going.
No problem. Put me
I
to
appreciate
work.
that.
Andre is a rock star. He was probably gonna be my friend to feature next week, so it's very cool that you happen to just bring him up. We didn't talk about this
Stole
in
it.
advance. So Andre, yeah, go ahead. Why
Yeah,
is
so
Andre your friend?
absolutely beautiful photography. Just spectacular. I enjoy getting to see, a lot of it takes place in the Bahamas, and there's all sorts of really cool shots. So I know I did two photographers back to back, but man, you really can't beat some beautiful underwater photography. So for you guys who didn't tune in last week, I showcased Brent Duran, and this week is going to be Andre Musgrove. So
Goodness.
go ahead and give them both a follow.
Please do. And Andre's photos, most of them really give me physical pain. His eye is amazing. The visibility in the Bahamas is stunning. They got sharks and all. It hurts. But certainly for you guys listening in to this show via podcast, Andre has 173,000 followers, and that's for a really, really good reason. So go over there, follow Danny Washington, follow Andre Musgrove, show him some love. All the engagement helps their following to grow, as well as it following our stuff helps us grow. So, boom. I'm gonna remove that, and I'm just gonna bring up our what else? Yeah. Tip.
There we go. And my tip for the week, following along with what we're going to be talking about during the show, is I know last week I talked about zip ties. I won't always pick equipment, but as an instructor, equipment is a friend of mine. But I highly recommend, and if you guys watch season 1, I talk about using a compass a lot. I highly recommend you getting your own compass and getting very familiar with it. And so once you get that skill, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the show, and we'll talk about navigation, but once you get a compass and you get comfortable and you're able to find your way to where you want to go, back to the boat, back to shore, that makes you a very confident diver, and it makes you a very competent diver, two of things which are very important for your safety. So that is a very high recommendation for me, is to get your own compass and get familiar with using it.
And do you recommend a wrist-mounted compass, or a compass on your console, or sort of a tethered compass on like a zippy thing that I've seen? I've seen that a lot too.
I
What do you
like kind
recommend?
of a combination. So a lot of
Okay.
dive computers nowadays will have a magnetic compass. Excuse me, electronic compass, not magnetic compass.
We got you.
And so they have that. So my computer has that, and I kind of use it. Some people use it as their primary. I actually use it as my backup. I'm kind of old school. I like having a normal compass in hand, and so mine is actually, I use it both ways. So mine is a wrist compass, which is great because you can put it on your wrist and you can hold it out in front of you. Or what's nice though is whenever I'm not using it, and if I don't want to worry about it like sliding around, I will clip it off to myself. I also have some of the nice little retractors, so I could clip my
Right.
wrist off.
It's a zippy thing.
Yeah.
retractor.
Yeah, it's great. So I can clip off my compass to my BC and then I can pull it out in front of me. So that way I have a lot of flexibility. And if for some reason I, didn't bring a compass with me because I didn't think I would need one, I always have one on my computer as well. So
That's
that's
cool.
it's kind of a good combination. It's got all your
I
bases
would
covered.
agree. I would agree. Guys, for those of you that are locked in, it'll be wonderful to have some comments, some feedback, some questions about our tips, trivia, and even our friends to follow. If we can answer the question, we will. But certainly, when it comes to compass, I just want to expound more on your tip, Jess, about compasses are great. I've got one right here. This is my wrist, like a wrist mount compass we call it.
Mhm.
And I've often either had it on my wrist if I'm doing a nav dive, or I will just wrap it around the webbing on my wing and just
Yeah.
kind of have it on me if I need it. Um, Goodness, most divers have dive computers these days. PDCs are personal dive computers, and I think all the new models now would have a digital electronic compass in the computer. I think as an open water diver new to the sport, maybe a dive computer is not something that you have just yet. Maybe as you're doing your course, your LDS, your local dive shop would have computers to rent, or at least to use during a course. Maybe your set of regulators has a computer in the console. Who knows, right? So a lot of different things that we could sort of flesh out uh, during the show. I mean, goodness, I just said a lot, I think. Um,
We'll definitely be talking about that with some of the specialties coming up for sure. And actually, real quick, we have a comment from Bobby.
oh yeah, let's bring that up.
So Bobby says digital compasses are affected by large metal and electric fields made by scooters, analog for the win. So, which is really funny because whenever I dove with you, Bobby, you were using a digital compass, and I was using my analog one.
All right,
But yes,
all
and
right,
and they
all
are, so and we'll talk about that too, but compasses are affected, he was talking about digital compasses, but also
Mhm.
analog compasses are affected by, like, large metal, so sometimes you all of a sudden you see your compass and it's doing its thing, and it's like, "Boop," and you get a kind of a Johnny Depp style,
Goodness.
compass. You
Yep,
get
just
a Jack
dancing around.
Sparrow compass there for a little
Yep,
bit,
yep.
so if you move further away from the metal object, then your compass starts working again.
But to Bobby's point, Bermuda being the shipwreck capital of the Atlantic, and there's a lot of metal down there. All the wooden ships are kind of not around anymore, but the heavy iron and steel, and you get around some of our wrecks, and yeah, you would see the compasses kind of do a whole bunch of silly things. But um, not to digress, it's wonderful to have a compass on and understand how to navigate underwater. It's really, really valuable. Early on in your diving journey, as a new diver, as an open water diver, many times you may simply be following a dive guide, and that's okay. But part of advancing in your journey as a diver is to be able to dive with your buddy on your own. Notice I didn't say by yourself because we don't want to hold your breath. We also don't want to dive alone. We want to have a buddy because diving is a lot to do with the people. You want to see something really exciting with another human and have that experience and that story to share with other people and make them jealous, right? If you're by yourself, nobody's going to believe you unless you got it on camera. But that's something that I certainly want to reinforce while I have your attention on that particular topic.
Ooh, and I actually am gonna segue because I think there's gonna be a lot of that during this episode. But one of the things that Weldon mentioned is kind of that like if you didn't get a picture of it, it didn't happen. And that's very popular nowadays. And I totally understand why. And it is absolutely wonderful to take pictures and that way you have like memories of all your dives and the fun places
Yeah.
you've gone. But do make sure that anytime you bring a camera down with you, remember cameras are always a secondary thing. So your safety is first. And so if you are ever diving in conditions and all of a sudden things get kind of rough, maybe it's been a while since you've been in the water and you're not feeling the most confident, make sure that you remember that the photos are not the primary purpose. So the primary thing is to go down, have fun, be safe, get back on the boat, go back to your family.
Yep, yep,
So it's very tempting with underwater photography to like, you just want to get that shot or you just want to go a little bit further, or maybe it's not the best conditions, but you bring your camera anyways. There's whole lot going on in your brain whenever you bring a camera with you. So just make sure that you are in the proper mindset and make sure that you are in a spot where you can safely take beautiful photos.
Yeah, without question. I mean, Jess, I know you've got stories. If I've got stories, you have stories about different behaviors, different decisions and choices divers have made to kind of bend some rules, but we're not gonna really dive into that right now. No pun
Mhm.
intended. Um, but we are just about 20 minutes into tonight's show, and that's a great time to queue up our topic. Beyond open water. So let's start with why, Jess. Why should someone that's tuned into our show, either live or listening to us on podcast or watching us on replay, that maybe swims, is not afraid of the water, maybe does a bit of snorkeling, now they want to become a certified diver? And that first step is being a PADI open water certified. So why should I get certified? I could
Oh
just
man. Oh
borrow
man.
kit and kick around and figure it out on my own, or I can reach out to an agency and do my level one. But why? Let's start with why.
Oh man. I'm either the best or the worst person to ask on this.
Uh,
Diving is just
let's
such
get
a
into it.
diving is such a spectacular sport. You get to see a whole nother side of the world. So, when you're on land or if you're at the beach and you're looking out at the water, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. But getting to go underwater and getting to dive in and see all of the creatures, whether you're interested in animals or if you're interested in different cool formations like coral reefs, like cenotes, um, or if it's just the physical exercise, if it's the mental clarity you get diving, it's completely spectacular because you're in like a completely different mindset whenever you're diving because you're focused on safety and you're focused on what's in front of you. And a lot of times all of the other stuff that likes to run through our heads throughout the day, I don't know about everyone else, but for me and a lot of people I know, it just kind of goes away. It's a very peaceful, it's very fun, it's also adventurous. You get a nice little adrenaline hit whenever you're diving sometimes. You get to go different places that you maybe never would have, discovered if it wasn't for diving. Um, and you get to meet a lot of really cool people. So the people that you meet on the dive boat, the people you meet in the destinations that you go to, the people you meet in your local community who are also avid divers, these are all different. We all have our different whys for the initial reason why we got into it, but a lot of those things that I just listed are reasons that people stay in diving. And so it's not just the initial like, oh, cool, I have this cool equipment. I get to go underwater. I get to breathe underwater.
Hmm.
Like, how cool
Hmm.
is that? But then it's everything else that comes along with it. So,
Indeed. Let me play devil's advocate because I had someone send me
oh,
a
please
message
do.
earlier about this. It's like, okay,
I'll get
so
my halo out.
no, so I'm great in the water. I know how to swim. I know how to snorkel. Done a little bit of free diving. My buddy has gear that I can always borrow. And I've kind of kicked around a bit. I guess the question now is, why should I get certified
Ah,
versus what I should just,
just
I
go.
know how to do it. Like I've seen it done online. I did watched a couple of YouTube videos. My friend showed me, what to do, turn the air on and breathe through the regulator. But why should I get certified? What does that unlock, and what can I learn from an agency such as Patty that's training me through an instructor? Like, what are the benefits there?
Yeah. So you want to make sure that you never dive until you are certified. And so whether you signed up for a course or you're doing Discover Scuba, that's different because you're with your instructor. But you never want to go out diving until you have the proper certification. And the reason for that is diving is not like other sports. Whenever it comes to like, if no one's ever taught me how to play basketball before, I can at least try. I can like go out there and make a fool of myself, but I can figure it out, right? I don't necessarily need someone to train me before the first time I ever played basketball. Scuba diving is completely different. There's a lot of safety concerns whenever it comes to scuba diving that you learn about during the course to help you be a safe and confident diver. And so we have obviously the whole you don't breathe underwater. So, as much as some of us would like to, we can't breathe underwater without our regulators and our tanks. And so, learning about that, we learn about nitrogen absorption, which we can talk about a little bit more. We learn about the different effects on our body at depth and also all of the other safety practices that come with both being underwater, breathing underwater, and also our equipment. And so that is extremely important. Also, no reputable place will rent you equipment without your certification. So you have to have that card, your PADI C card, or your certification card to prove that you are a certified diver before they will rent you equipment. That means by having that card, it shows them that you have passed the written part of the exam, the pool, and the open water portion, and you know what you're doing. And so that way you can actually get the equipment. Oh, hold on, Weldon. Let me get you unmuted here. There you go. Oh.
For people to I think
There
it's
you go.
important for people to understand and recognize that getting certified does unlock your ability to rent gear, take part in expeditions. It just shows, you know, a degree of competency. You during the process, you've done practical work, you've done theory work, you've covered quite a bit, and a lot of that is e-learning, and then a lot of that is on site with a local diving shop with an instructor or some form thereof. But you know, a couple of things Jess mentioned. So I just want to kind of bring everyone up to speed. So if you're just never dove before, but you're interested, I'm just going to add this to the stream. You can participate in something called the Discover Scuba Diving experience. An instructor is never more than an arm's length away from you. And this is on patty.com/courses/discover-scuba-diving. And it's wonderful. This was my first segue into scuba diving, doing what's
Me
called
too.
DSD. You know, she's holding up the largest, and I'm just showing this on the screen for you guys listening. An instructor has like the largest diving table, like slate thing I've ever seen. But yeah, it's a wonderful experience. The description is online on patty.com, and you can go from never having done a scuba dive before into running through a DSD, which is great. And then after you've done your DSD and you've had a wonderful experience and you love to get certified, the next step is learning how to scuba dive and getting certified in that. So I'm just going to click on courses and click on open water diver. And this should show us wow, that's a beautiful shot. Holy cow. Just a crystal clear shot of a diver over some corals. So wow, they've updated this. I haven't actually looked at this in a bit. Learn how to be a confident and skilled diver, assemble and use your scuba gear, manage your buoyancy, which is a big deal in diving, respectfully approach marine life, which is huge, especially if you want to dabble in photography or you have a GoPro or an Olympus TG6 or a full-on like Sony DSLR. Approaching marine life and managing your buoyancy is critical, and how to handle common problems, which with the right training and experience and coach, mentor, and research and the right buddies and social diving with the right people, you'll be able to negate a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I mentioned e-learning. You find an instructor and you knock it out. A few days, 4 to 7 days, it says here on the website. Minimum age is 10 years or older, but you got to be able to swim and be medically fit for diving. And hopefully, like, you're not afraid of fish. I mean, you can do a bit of stuff in the pool, but I know a lot of people that do avoid the water because they're like, I don't want to get like, I'm afraid of fish. Either way, getting certified definitely unlocks a lot. But Jess, I'm going to hide this.
Okay.
Because the title of our show is Beyond
Beyond.
Open Water. So now I think we've, I hope to our viewership and our listening audience, I hope we've covered a bit of, getting to this level and why it's important to become certified on this first level. And I say that because there is stuff to do beyond open water.
There's
And
so much.
yeah, the things that it unlocks. So you've done your open water, you've got your certification card. I got some C cards on my shelf here. They're really cool. I collected them at one point. And so Jess, I think I would love to certainly expand on with you the advantages of going beyond open water, beyond this first level of diving. What do you got to say about that, Miss Patty instructor? Let's go beyond.
Yeah, so open water is great because it gets you into scuba diving and it gets you that initial certification, but there's so much beyond open water. So there's advanced, where you get to try out 5 different specialties. You get to try your hand at more things scuba diving and really get to kind of tune into adding to your tool belt, but also tune into what you enjoy the most. Diving is really cool because there's so many different aspects to it. So you could be someone who loves wreck diving, or you're really into fish identification and swimming on top of coral reefs, or maybe you absolutely love night diving, or diving in caves, or there's so many different options. And a lot of these skills that you can learn in advanced or taking the full specialties, which we'll talk about as well, are really, really great to helping you become a better diver. And the more skills you have, the more confident and better diver you are, the more safe and comfortable you'll be whenever you're in the water. And that encourages you to get out more. So I've noticed sometimes when people get their open water and they don't continue on taking, advanced or rescue, different specialties, a lot of times, they might be the people who only stay in the sport for a short period of time, or maybe they dive pretty infrequently. But a lot of times, once you start learning these skills, and building that, it encourages you to get out and dive more, and you're able to dive in more places as well in different types of conditions. Because there's some spots that maybe are not great for open water divers who are newer divers, but for a more advanced diver, who has been diving for longer, has more dives under the belt, has more specialties and training under their belt, it's something that it would be a safe and good dive for them, but maybe not be great for someone who's brand new, just like anything else in life. And so learning these skills, so there's the deep specialty, there's navigation, which I was talking about with the compass. There's peak performance buoyancy, which is really great. So that one gets you to really like tune in on your buoyancy when you're underwater. So like Weldon was saying, with your underwater photography, you're not going to be able to get these amazing shots if you don't have your buoyancy under control, and you're also not going to be able to do it safely. There's underwater photography, underwater naturalists, fish identification, night diving, drift diving, wrecks. So you have a lot of
There's a
different
lot.
options
Yeah,
that,
without
kind of based off of what you like, what piques your fancy. You can kind of pick dry suit diving. So if you live somewhere where it's chilly, or you want to go somewhere, and see some cool stuff, but you need to have the proper exposure suit for that. Dry suit diving is great. It allows me to dive in the winter, which I really appreciate because I used to not be able to dive in the winter comfortably, and now I can. So that's really exciting. Yeah, there's diver propulsion vehicles.
goodness.
So Bobby in our comments was talking about using a scooter underwater. So there's diver propulsion vehicle. Drift diving is
There
really fun.
are
There's a
a
lot of different
lot.
places around the
Wow.
world that you can drift dive. So that is where a place where the current is strong. Excuse me. And you can kind of just like cruise along with it. And so, you're not swimming back to the boat. The boat is coming and picking you up where you end up. But there's obviously some
So
different
cool.
things that you need to learn.
Indeed. Guys, I've just brought up all the specialties available through Patty. Just sharing that on the screen for you guys to see, should you be watching us on video, on a live or on replay. And thank you to all 70 of you that are joining us tonight. Holy cow. So I'm all for continued learning. And in my journey, I haven't gone to pro or instructor. I just reached the highest level on the sort of recreational side. But continued education and continued learning is super important. It's also important to mix in as much social diving or fun diving as you can between doing these
Absolutely.
specialties as well. But just like I don't know if this is the best analogy, but just like in a video game, as you level up, you're able to do more. So I
Hmm.
was a big World of Warcraft guy at one point in my life, and it was all about getting to level 40 to get your mount so that you can ride around on this tiger instead of running around everywhere. So in diving, and that might be a great analogy. I don't know. Any of you, any WoW fans out there, let me know. But as you start to, you want to do things, you want to dive a bit deeper to get to a wreck that's deeper than 40 or 60 feet. You want to do that drift diving in Cozumel where you're moving at like 4 knots without even moving. So you need to get these specialties to then unlock um, these cooler experiences. So Jess mentioned this already, but I've got this up on the screen as well. If you into wreck diving, there's a wreck diving specialty, which is a course that's dialed in specifically to understanding how to properly dive in wrecks, and wrecks could be something where it's just pieces and you're just swimming over it, or we can like do full wreck penetration diving where you're in an overhead environment and it could get you can lose a bit of light or completely lose light. So you learn a lot about wreck diving in that particular specialty.
Which would
Night
be
diving,
awesome to do if you
yeah,
live in
yeah, for
Bermuda. I mean,
sure,
anywhere
for
there's
sure.
lots of cool wreck diving, but especially if you live in Bermuda.
Gosh, I remember like I did my open water and I wanted to level up to advanced and then do a bunch of specialties to then work to master a diver. And I certainly remember doing rec, night. You learn how to just dive properly at night. There's an etiquette to using a high powered torch underwater to communicate with your buddy, and then how to, not like blind sea life. So there's a respect element there. But I'm just
Yeah.
going down the list quite quickly. Search and recovery was a dope course. I did that in Mexico. Um, equipment specialist I haven't done. The DPV I've done, the drift I've done, the boat I've done, the underwater videographer I haven't done, but there's many. And I just believe firmly that balancing as much social diving as you can with leveling up and getting, continuing education in the diving space, just unlocks so much. Now, while I don't own a DPV, I did the course because it's now I can say, look, I can go to dive tech in Grand Cayman, and I can rent one of the DPVs. I just show Joe I've done the DPV course, and boom, I get one of those Tusa Sav 7 Evos and either hold on to it or put it between my legs, and I'm getting pulled or pushed around. It's phenomenal. Um, so certainly I'm staunch advocate for going way beyond open water diving because it just unlocks so much. I did my rescue in Mexico with my good friend Julio, and Julio was well, he still is a scout leader. So what I learned a lot in rescue, Jess, I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but getting the right instructor matters too, and we can talk about that some other time. But Julio brought in his Boy Scout leader experience and his boat handling experience, and we learned all this extra stuff. So Patty provides you with, this wonderful framework, and you check all those boxes, and you're great. But when you have an instructor that has peripheral or external talents, skills, and experience that can pour into it, it's great. So we learned extra medical techniques and tactics and things, and then knots. Like knot tying was a big thing. I remember Julio was covering bowline, reef knot, how to deal with all these issues in addition to, what the course offers standard. And yeah, it's great. And we got a comment from Bobby. Bobby says scooters are a game changer for reef diving. Bobby, I did run one of these Tusa SAP 7 Evos. We've got 3 of them on island, just privately owned. But I loved putting the scooter, guys, between my legs and being pushed and kind of doing this Superman thing. The thing was, I remember I had to dial it down. Like it's great not having to fin to move around the reef, but I was just moving a bit too quick, over the reef. I know if I wanted to get from A to B, so in Bermuda doing a shore dive, if I want to get from the beach to the breaker line and back, obviously a DPV is phenomenal to cover that ground. But in Cayman, I just remember like having to slow. I'm like, slow down. Like we're flying. But yeah, it's definitely a game changer. I know the technical diving crew here, they had the Magnus and Minus tech scooters, and they're like pulling, twin set steels with stage bottles and stuff. So they needed those really, really fancy scooters. So, when you see these advanced divers doing really cool stuff, side mount diving at night, there's a very, very high likelihood that those divers have taken a course that's specialized or specialty course that speaks to those disciplines, those skills that you see going on. Jess,
Yeah, that's
you're an instructor, which is
mhm.
phenomenal. What's your favorite courses, specialty courses to teach beyond open water?
Oh, that's that's tough.
That's what I would
I
imagine.
love the dive master course. It is the step that you would take. So we talked about advanced and we talked about rescue and specialties. Dive master is the first level of becoming a dive professional, and so it's almost more like an internship than it is a class because you're going to be getting a lot of different experience in a lot of different areas to meet the qualifications to be able to become a dive master. And it's a really, really great course. you're the instructor, but as an instructor, you also get to be a mentor, which is really exciting to see a diver grow into their potential of being a dive leader. And so I really enjoy the Dive Master course. It's fantastic. And that's once you get your Dive Master, you can lead certified divers. You can, if you take the workshops, you can do Discover Scubas and some snorkeling classes as well. And you can also help out. You can be an assistant during a open water classes and other classes that instructors are teaching. And so dive masters are very helpful. And I'm sure all the instructors out there will agree that having a dive master help you with your class is always great to have another extra set of hands, extra set of eyes whenever you're working with your students. And so Dive Master is a really, really great course. But as far as specialties go, I highly recommend Peak Performance Buoyancy to anyone who is just wanting to kind of really work on their buoyancy, whether you're a new diver or a more experienced diver. I really like that. I also think that the navigation course is very important because whenever you take the adventure dive in your advanced class for navigation, you get to do one dive. But whenever you take the full specialty, you get to do three, and each one is a little bit more complex as far as the compassing skills that you are utilizing. And so that's really awesome. I love fish ID because I'm a huge fish nerd. So getting to teach fish ID to other people is great. And then night, because so many people think they're not going to like it. And they're, before you go dive on your first night dive, and we have a whole episode about diving in the dark. But night diving, it sounds kind of scary. Your body is like, why are you doing this? This is a bad idea. But once you actually get down there, you get to see so much cool stuff at night, stuff that you wouldn't get to see during the day, especially when you're diving on a reef, but also in other places as well. But it's really fun, and it helps you get past that fear. A lot of times looking on the surface, looking down into dark water, and you can't see what's down there. All of the things in the back of your head are like, oh, there's monsters down there. But actually getting to go down with the flashlight and get to see all the cool stuff there is to see, it's really cool. And I think it helps people be even more confident divers during the day when they've accomplished being a great diver at night. And so a lot of these things, they just lend into each other. So,
they do.
How does being a good night diver make you a better diver during the day? Well, if you have that level of confidence, if you have that assuredness, then that makes you a better diver during the daytime, even though that's not what this skill was teaching you, but it still lends into that. So it's all building blocks.
Indeed, it all ties in together. It all notches you up, and to just segue back into leveling up in a video game, it all matters. Yeah, I remember I had my little World of Warcraft little guy, and he was a hunter elf or whatever, and I wanted him to be an epic hunter, and he had his pet, and then I want you to learn how to cook and do all these things. So it's really cool thinking about it like that, and it all adds up. It all segues and ties into each other. And what I want to share with new divers on the live or listening or watching this on the replay, getting into scuba diving today is significantly different than when it was 13, 14 years ago when I first dabbled into it. Just looking at patty.com/courses, it's a lot going on. When you get your book, your certification book, there's gonna be rebreather diving on the first page. There's gonna be side mount diving and tech diving, mermaid diving, free diving. And I mentioned this on another class. Like, one of the most phenomenal moments I remember having, I was in an airport heading back to Bermuda from a dive trip, and I always look for the magazines, and on the cover of Scuba magazine was a free diver, and I was like, huh, I think this is the beginning of some changes in the space, because we're talking self-contained underwater breathing apparatus magazine featuring a diver without self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. It's great. So I'm just going to show the screen one more time just to kind of reinforce, like, out of the gate, we're talking about, beyond open water, there's so much more. And certainly, Jess, to your point, my peak performance buoyancy course was phenomenal. It was a game changer. My instructor was with another agency teaching the similar course, and I remember seeing him just hovering mid water in the water column, not moving at all, just there like a fish. And I was like, well, if he can do it, I'm sure I can do it in time. He'd been diving for years, and it was just seeing this human, in his full regalia. I was like, all right, it is possible. I'm, using my arms and legs, flailing around, not realizing he had his own gear, dialed in. He had, large paddle fins, the jet fins from Scuba Pro or whatever. So he was able to like back kick and side kick and helicopter turn and all that. So and again, he had everything. He owned his own kit and he had everything dialed in and had been diving that with experience for a long time. So he was holding his wrists, and I was like, cha, that is so cool. So we're talking full face mask diver. They got a specialty for the DSMB, which is a very valuable skill to have. You guys putting up a delayed surface marker buoy, you can become an advanced mermaid. Which is amazing. So these are things I'm actually seeing for the first time, which is really cool.
And that's the neat thing is like things like tech, things like we have a whole episode on scientific diving, and then going in and becoming a dive master instructor, all of these things, they don't just happen
Very
overnight.
cool.
So like Weldon was
No, they
talking about,
don't. Yeah.
making sure that you're getting out there in between classes, going out diving with other divers, other certified divers, just getting more dives under your belt, getting comfortable underwater. And then, taking these different classes, kind of figuring out what you like and what you want to do more of. Those are all really helpful, and a lot of those skills that you'll be taking in your specialty classes will make you a better dive master, a better tech diver whenever you get into those things. And there's things that you might not have thought you wanted to do. Whenever I got certified, 18 going on 19 years ago,
Mhm.
I just got certified and I loved it and I thought it was fantastic. But I didn't really have like a specific path in mind. But as I took different specialties, as I took rescue, and I really started feeling that responsibility for other divers as well as myself, and then moving on up through the path that I took through scientific and then
Right.
into dive master and instructor, all of these things were building blocks that each time that I wanted to notch it up to the next level, it allowed me to do so and I had a lot of dives under my belt. I got out there and I dove a lot. And that is another reason why I was a very confident diver. And I was able to take these courses is because I was out there and I was diving and I was learning. And it was just all these little experiences along your way that really help you.
Indeed. And I think like there's a lot that can be said, and I think that's why we have a show dedicated to this. I did do many specialties, and I did do them like across the region. I remember doing my digital photography course in Dominican Republic. I did a couple of courses in Grand Cayman, a couple of courses in Cozumel, Mexico. It was really where the particular diving destination had that diving sort of featured, if you will. So there was an amazing drift dive called Barracuda on the north side of Cozumel, and you were just flying. So did the specialty there, but I went there like 4 times in 2 years once. Yeah, twice a year for yeah. It was dope. But certainly working up and balancing your social diving with your courses is valuable. And we've got Magic on the live, which is great. And Magic has a comment, but before we bring that up, Magic is a diver. He's also a dancer. And whenever Magic's in the room, I can't help think about salsa dancing and Latin dancing and how you might get pulled into a salsa dancing class and you learn to dance on one, learn to dance on two, you find the beat, you got the basic step, you got the crossbody lead, you learn the fundamentals. Over the last many years, I've seen dancers level up quite quickly, and being awesome because what they're doing is they're taking the classes, but they're also balancing the dance classes with as much social dancing as he or she can, which is
That's
super key.
yeah.
Dancing with as many different people as you can, and I encourage that in the diving space. Yes, it's great to have a dive team or core team, where you're learning each other's nuances and getting each other's gear dialed in. So I know exactly where all Jess's D rings are. I know, the make and brand and model of our first and second stage. And okay, if I crack it that way, it kind of leaks a little bit. But it's also great to expand your horizons and get to know as many divers as you can too. Magic, I'm going to bring up your comment, and it is for Jess. It's a question for. So Magic says.
Okay.
Magic says, so sorry. Jess, when teaching a specialty, do instructors normally work with the student until the skill is achieved, or does it ever come to a point where a struggling student would be marked as unsuccessful? Let's talk about that.
So it kind of depends on the situation, and it depends on what class you're in. So
Okay.
if you are taking so I primarily teach private courses. So I'm with the student until the student is, either at a point where they're no longer able to, they don't want to go any further, or it's just not working. But I've been very fortunate that that hasn't happened. And I'm not saying it won't. But a lot of times, what happens is if a student is struggling with a skill, a lot of times, especially in open water, mass clearing skills can be very difficult in the very beginning until you kind of get there's a lot of mind over matter whenever it comes to that, because it feels a little uncomfortable to have the water touching your face. And a lot of people struggle with that skill. It's extremely normal. A lot of people get frustrated with themselves. It's not frustrating for me at all. And it's not frustrating for your instructor, your dive master, because we're used to it. But what we do is we work with you, and we work with you through the skill. We practice different ways. There's a lot of different ways to teach a skill. And everyone learns differently. So just finding the right way to tell or show someone how to do a skill until they're able to successfully pass that skill and then move on to the rest. Now, sometimes if you're in a large group class, if you have gotten to a certain point and you're still not able to, they might ask you to come back and join another class and let your class go on to the next skills that you're not able to go to yet until you've passed that one, because a lot of skills build upon each other. And so if you're not able to clear a partially flooded mask, you're not able to move on to a fully flooded mask. And so in a situation like that, a lot of times what a shop or an instructor will do is they'll have you come back at another time and either decide to do a private course where you can work one-on-one with an instructor, or come back with another class that is at that same point that you were at, and then you can keep practicing that skill. A lot of times all it takes is going home, kind of sometimes people will just get frustrated, just giving them a minute, let yourself kind of decompress a little bit, pun intended, and just come back fresh the next day. And so, yes, it is possible that if there was, an important skill that you were absolutely not able to do, no instructor should pass you on if you're not able to complete that skill.
Mm,
But that does not, it's not impossible. It does happen. I've been very fortunate that it hasn't happened to me. But at some point in time, the odds are pretty likely that that'll happen someday. But a lot of times, as long as you, the student, are willing to keep working at it and willing to get over the fact that you weren't able to do it on your first try, which a lot of times I think that's what hangs people up, is that they're frustrated with themselves. They're like, oh, my dive buddy made it look easy. It should be easy for me. But we all learn different ways. We all have different skill sets. And so just being open-minded, don't get frustrated with yourself. A lot of times it's a mental block, not a physical block. I've noticed whenever it comes to these different skills, because our brains, whenever we're breathing underwater, our brains are like, "You're not supposed to be able to do this." So yes, sorry, that was a very long answer to. It is
no, no, no,
possible
no, no.
that you can be marked as not able, but usually it's only if the student no longer wants to keep trying, or if they're not able to take a private class and they want to try again some other time. But odds are, most of the time, either the instructor or a dive master who's teaching your class will pull you to the side, work with you on that skill until you're able to successfully complete it and then move on to the next one.
I think Magic knows the deal because again, very similar worlds, right? The dancing and diving world. It's a wonderful paradigm to bounce back and forth in and out of, because yeah, certainly if you're, just imagine, being in a group of five or six other divers, and everyone's moving at a different pace. You may encounter a situation where you or a friend doesn't quite grasp the skill right away and needs to do some private instruction. Same thing happens in dancing. You'll find you're like, wow, your boy, couldn't even dance on beat, a month ago, and now he's like amazing. Well, we don't know that he or she took private classes outside of the regular weekly class and was able to accelerate. And so, getting that one-on-one attention to dial in obstacles that you encounter as you progress through the journey is not unique to diving. It probably exists in almost every space where, like Jess said, we're human, we're similar, but we're different in a lot of ways too. And how we grasp new skills and concepts, especially when it's completely goes against nature, again using this man-made apparatus to breathe on the water, which is completely unnatural. But it's a wonderful it's a wonderful experience. It's a wonderful form of recreation, and for many people around the world, it's that have gone pro and beyond. It's great to be doing this work professionally, doing it every day, or even doing it in your spare time, but leveling it all the way up to where it's a sport or it's professional. You got all kind of levels to it. And it's funny because I had a conversation just yesterday with a group, defining, what is a diver, because they hear the word diving. And if we want to push, bringing people to Bermuda to dive, sometimes you have to recognize like not everyone in the room really knows what we're talking about. Are we talking only scuba? Are we talking snorkeler, free divers, spear fishermen? Are we swimming with whales? Are we swimming in caves? So it's always important to frame that as well and be clear. One example would be when I say, you know, yeah, I dive deep or I stay shallow. You know, people have different perceptions on that. How do I define deep? I define deep as being, generally 100 feet. Shallow would be 10 to 15. Yeah, that's in my mind. To most, some people would say deep is as if it's deeper than I can see. If I can't see the bottom, it's a little bit too deep. So it's a lot of different ways to perceive how someone looks at something like art. Maybe I think Banksy's are silly. Maybe I think Banksy's are great. Who is Banksy? I don't know who he is, but I digress. But certainly, going beyond open water is super important, I believe, as a diver. If you want to get into this amazing blue space that takes up what 70% of Earth is ocean. So much of it is left has not been explored yet. There's amazing opportunities to get involved and to do really cool things, from conservation, education, even having a job in the space. Getting your open water is the first level. But as we've clearly explained for almost the last hour, there's so much more to scuba diving than that first level. And every time you do level up with a specialty, it unlocks and it unlocks some amazing things and gives you access to stuff you might not have had access to before. Plus, what's really great, because it's about people too, is you've probably made a pretty dope relationship with the instructor that taught you that specialty. And I would encourage you to travel around, learn from as many different people as you can. Just like in dancing, it's great to, spend time with different instructors, because each instructor has his or her own special way of instructing. So that's great.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, especially if you want to become a dive professional. So as a open water diver moving up, sometimes you have different instructors, sometimes you have the same instructor, but a lot of times during your dive master course, you will actually be paired up with multiple instructors. That way, you're not just seeing the way that one person teaches. As much as I would love for you to take every single one of your classes with me, that's not necessarily going to be the thing that benefits you the most. So if you're a dive master with me, I'm not going to have you just follow my courses and be shadowing my courses. I want you to see how other instructors teach. That's where I've learned some of like the key terms that I use today, just little sayings that help my students. I've picked those up from different people along the way. So if I only had one instructor, even if they're the most amazing instructor in the world, which I was very fortunate, my open water instructor who taught me all the way up through, I guess up through master, except for rescue. I learned so much, but getting to have a different rescue instructor, have a different, see multiple people teach during my dive master, and then have a completely different group for my instructor. All of those things kind of helped turn me into the instructor I am today. And so I was very fortunate. And then all the people, like Weldon was talking about, all the people that I've got to dive with outside of classes, different dive buddies, different places, different gear, getting to see that. You might think that you love the gear that you have, and you very well might, but then you'll see someone else's stuff and you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
And
big
that's,
pink
yeah,
hoses and
right.
white
It's a little bit
masks
different.
and Yep.
And the other thing I wanted to say is just like with dancing, if you haven't done it for a while, a lot of times you might be a little rusty when you first get back into it. So one of the courses that I really enjoy teaching is a refresher course. So if it's been a little while since you've been diving, it's always a good idea to either do like a guided dive or do a refresher course with an instructor or dive master. And then that way they can kind of help you get back into it. So that way you're not like dancing with two left feet out there. You're not stepping on anyone's toes. But no, in all seriousness, making sure that you're safe whenever you get back into the water if it's been a while, especially
That
if
is
it's been a long
important.
time, because our
Yeah.
equipment and technology changes so quickly that it might be a very different landscape than the last time you were when you were in the water.
Okay. I have a WhatsApp question. I,
Okay.
I, I think he saw the pricing on the Patty website.
Okay.
So the question is, what's the approximate cost to go from open water to master diver?
Ooh,
And I had a bit of a visceral reaction to that because
trying to
yeah,
quantify.
I mean, we're trying to if you try to, put the math to it, it is actually, my answer, if you don't mind, Jess, is just it's a bit it's a little unfair. We're talking about, putting a price to what is really like a bit of a it's a journey. It's a bit of a life journey. It's a wonderful experience. So you can kind of pick and choose your specialties and come to a figure that's a couple of $1,000s, but it's way more than just the sticker price that you'd see on this accumulation of courses that you'll take. I always call this a journey because that's exactly what it is. But uh, I remember, jokingly, one of the divers that I met early on, he was like, "Yeah, you stop counting at 50,000." I've spent way more than 50,000 in the diving space over the last decade when you include all the training, all the trips, lost gear, um, all that stuff. So, for me, I think I probably started counting the numbers early on, but once you fall in love with diving and ocean exploration and being underwater and being around the people that enable this wonderful experience to happen, you really don't really put too much of a price tag to it, if that makes sense. But certainly visit patty.com. And if you want to, pick the courses and tack on a figure to it, feel free, my guy, if that's what you want to do. But I don't know. That's my long answer to what is probably a simple question if you do a little bit of math, but it's so much more
And
to
it's
it
hard.
though.
It depends on where you're at. So obviously,
Right.
we all have different costs of living and that type of thing.
Sure.
So it depends on, there might be a different price. And if you take all your courses in Texas versus Bermuda versus Hawaii,
Right.
and so there's going to be a variance based off of. So different areas have different kind of not standard rates, but general rates for different courses. It depends on which courses you choose. So some classes are going to have a higher price tag based off of what is involved. So, a dive propulsion vehicle class might be
Mhm.
cost more because there's also you
Right.
have to have the dive propulsion vehicle to use. So it kind of depends. But do keep in mind, I know we were showing the Patty website. Those prices that you're seeing, that's not the price of the course; it's the price of the e-learning. Some dive shops and dive instructors, sometimes the e-learning is included in the overall price of the class. Sometimes it's a separate. So just make sure that you're always asking questions whenever it comes to if it's not laid out. Make sure that you know what's expected. So are you buying your e-learning? Is it included in your class? But those prices right there were specifically for the e-learnings, not the course itself. So that doesn't include your instructor.
Yeah, and I don't want to come across as like, oh, I got all the money in the world to put into diving. I budget just like everybody else does. If I want to take a trip to Mexico, I'm like, okay, let me find an all inclusive with the dive shop attached, and I'll be eating ramen noodles and whatnot to make it happen. I certainly travel on a budget, and I'm conscious of how I spend my money. But it's more than like a zero to hero experience for me. Certainly, if you want to become a dive master, and you've never done it before, or you are an open water diver and you want to become an instructor, there are facilities that you can go to do exactly that. In what, just like 2, 3, 4 weeks, you can leave these specialized facilities a full fledged instructor in about a month. It's something that I even considered at one point. When I reached, I think my rescue, I was like, hey, I'd maybe love to be OWSI or MSDT and be a freelance instructor. And I'm looking at what way will make it, quicker. Just as an adult and being a professional in tech at the time, I didn't have a whole lot of time. I needed to kind of get it fleshed out. So there are places that do that, but having been in the space for 12, 13 years, it's very difficult for me to quantify everything I've spent in diving. And I would not really encourage you guys out there that are tuned in, watching us on replay or listening to us on podcast to do that kind of zero to hero push. But yeah, it can get pricey. And Bobby's chiming in right now saying it's quite pricey to dive and level up in Hawaii, and certainly Bermuda being the most expensive place in the world to live. Yeah, you want to do a 2 tank dive, it's going to cost you. You want to do specialty courses or your open water, your advanced, your master, your dive master. It's all going to have a pretty interesting price tag to it. But like Jess said, like it depends. If you want to be an instructor, Bermuda rarely offers those instructor opportunities. We have to fly in, maybe a course director. That maybe happens once every 3 or 4 years. We just don't really have the setup for it. So if I decided tomorrow to become an instructor, I'd probably ring my buddy Julio and say, hey, bro, I'm ready to make the jump. Let's figure it out. Let's make it work. And I will ask him about a cost because that is important. But then it'll be a bigger plan. I want to come back to Bermuda and instruct here potentially. That would be the why. Going back to the beginning of why become open water diver, why advance beyond that, and I think the rescue course, you guys, was one of the most phenomenal courses I took. It really opened up my eyes to some of the inherent dangers of breathing on this apparatus and how to deal with. That's why they call it rescue, because you learn some fundamental skills to help save your life and potentially the life of everybody. So
Yeah.
that was certainly my most favorite course. So,
Yeah,
guys,
I do recommend that for anyone. It's and because a lot of times we have to think about it. It's just the same thing as learning CPR. A
mm,
lot of times in a situation, the person that you're helping is someone that you're close to.
mhm.
So it's a dive buddy, it's a family member, and so having those skills that, especially, I highly recommend. I took rescue as a younger diver, as a younger individual, and it really helped me have a um, more of a sense of having the ability to help someone, even if they were the person in charge, even if they were the adult in this situation. As I was a minor whenever I took the course,
Mm,
that really helped me kind of grow into the diver that I am today, because I knew if there was an emergency, I had the skill set to handle it, even if in theory, the adult or the parent would be the person in charge. But if they're the person who's injured, it's on you as a dive buddy to have the same capabilities to rescue them as they do to rescue you. And so I definitely recommend that, for anyone who is going to be out diving with family, out diving in remote locations, and just as you grow as a diver in your career. Rescue diver is a very, very important and helpful course to take.
without question, was certainly my favorite, but I enjoyed them all. DPV was fun, as Bobby mentioned earlier. It's a bit of a game changer. The night diving was always interesting. I love diving on scuba, and free diving at night is quite nice for those that have like bioluminescence. It's really amazing, and everything changes at night, right? The parrotfish make this sort of mucus like cocoon thing
Little,
they
little
borrow
bubble, yeah.
themselves in. Yeah, which is really, really great. So I would encourage all of you, get into diving, get into scuba, contact your local dive shop. Wherever you are in the world, there's likely a Patty dive shop in your area or close by, and give them a ring. Let them know that you're interested in diving, crush your open water, and then move beyond open water and yeah, get into all the continued education and all the specialties that are of interest to you. And I guarantee the specialties that you see that you're like, oh, I like that one and that one, but I don't know about those other ones. As you level up, you'll find that your interests may change. You don't know until you try, and it's a wonderful blue world out there to explore, and getting all the skills and equipment and knowledge and experience that you need to be comfortable is definitely key. And that's kind of all I got to say on that. I mean, we could certainly talk for another hour about it all, like deep diving into each specialty and what's involved, but I mean, there's maybe 50 specialties on here. It's pretty wild. I thought I did them all, but clearly I haven't. Maybe 10 years ago I had them all, but now it's like there's like another 50. Um, Guys, in the comments, the 46 of you that are on the live, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. If you have any comments for us before we end the stream, we gotta go. Like it always, I'm like, I don't want to go.
Oh, we have to do our trivia.
I know. I got it. I got it. Let's go. Let's cover that. Let's cover that because we're almost out of time. Let me just bring up the thing here. So, guys, we started off the show with a trivia tip and friend to follow. We're gonna wrap up season 2, episode 9 with the answers to our trivia. And for those of you that were here, my question was, what's the depth that's the deepest a recreational diver should go on scuba? It is 130 feet or what, 40 meters or so. Jess, is that right?
Ooh, I don't know it in meters. I should.
I know it's like 40,
I know it
four
in
three,
meters.
4 threes. Bobby, help. But yeah, 130 feet. Anything beyond that is considered tech. It's nice to sort of stay 130 or shallower, you guys. That's the answer to my trivia. Jess, you asked about like the blends of nitrox. I remember that.
So for nitrox, what are the most common blends? So you learn this whenever you take your nitrox specialty, and that is going to be 32% and 36%. And so that's 32% oxygen and 36% oxygen are the two most common. And you'll see different blends in between that. And if you're doing more technical diving, it's going to be a lot higher than that. But with normal nitrox, that's what you're going to be looking at. And we didn't really talk about the enriched air. So nitrox or enriched air specialty, but it's definitely nice whenever you're going to be diving in that kind of medium depth range. It's really great for reducing the amount of nitrogen that your body is absorbing, so that way you have shorter surface or not necessarily shorter surface intervals, but less.
Let me see this. I'm just gonna bring this up real quick, Jess. Let's get that out of the way. Yeah, nitrox. We sped past that for whatever reason, but guys, it's really about understanding that scuba divers rarely breathe oxygen. You'll hear like, in movies and in the news and on the media, like, there goes a scuba diver with his oxygen. Well, most of the time what's in that cylinder is air, which is 21% oxygen. Well, this whole nitrox thing, this EANX stuff, it's just more oxygen to reduce the amount of nitrogen. So you can see I've shared the course sort of outline on the screen. We're talking about diving with this enriched air, using the air analyzer so that you know exactly what's in your cylinder. It's your responsibility to verify what the operator put in your tank, and then you adjust your dive computer to let it know that you're not breathing 21%. You are breathing, in fact, 32 or 36 because it does change your diving profile significantly enough, especially with something like 36. And yeah, I enjoy diving enriched air or
It's nice.
nitrox.
It
Yeah, it is nice.
definitely. People say that makes you feel less tired. There's no like official reports on that, but I mean, I definitely feel it, especially when not so much if you're just doing one dive a day, but if you're doing repetitive dives, just like Cody says,
Hey, Cody.
nitrox makes you feel much less tired after dives. If you're just doing 1 or 2 dives, it's up to you, but repetitive dives, it helps you have shorter surface intervals. And then whenever you're diving, you don't go into your, you don't start running low on your no decompression time. But when you're doing 4 dives a day, you might be a little tired out at the end of the day, but diving nitrox, I definitely felt a very big difference.
It matters. I definitely remember doing like 3 dives a day.
Way longer. And I was like, whenever I finally took it, I was like, oh man, what was I doing with my life before this?
Jeez, Cody, thank you so much for joining us on the live and for your comment, man. It for sure. Again, like I was told, it hasn't been proven, so it's like a placebo effect or whatever. But no, doing those 3-4 dives in Mexico, where that's all you're there to do, right? Dive, you do your 2-tank boat dive, and then you have unlimited shore diving. That's kind of what you can expect on some, or if not most, diving destinations where the resort is right on the water. So we're like knocking out as much as we can because I remember on this particular trip, we had quite a few accountants in the house, and money was a thing. It's like, well, let's get as many dives out of this trip as possible because then it reduces the cost, per dive. And I was like, all right, man, whatever. So we were doing like 4 or 5 dives a day, which I didn't even think was possible. Not every day. But yeah, we certainly got some very interesting blends of gas to dive and breathe, which reduced our fatigue levels. Diver fatigue is real. Shout out to my friend Lee in Jamaica, who was making fun of me when I told her about diver fatigue when calling lionfish. She was like, "You guys are soft. What do you mean diver fatigue?" And now I hear like volunteer fatigue, diver fatigue all the time. Now I'm like, goodness, I'm getting old? Like, what's going on? I'm hanging around older people, and people are getting tired, and I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty tired after diving. 2, 3 dives in a day. I'm like, yawn, need a nap.
Which is why it's so important to make sure that you're keeping your body healthy and you're keeping your cardiovascular health up, especially before you're going to go on a dive trip, to make sure that you are as good a shape but as healthy and happy as possible.
You need to drink less Celsius. I love the tropical vibe and the Fiji apple pear. And now they got the new Celsius heat. I don't know why I'm plugging Celsius. Is that okay? They got this infusion fruit punch that I'm like, I think it's like 280 milligrams of cap. Anyway, guys, look. I used to drink 2 Celsius a day. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 9 of this season. It's been a wonderful, wonderful show. I encourage all of you guys to certainly move beyond open water. I encourage you to. We did have a comment from Bobby. Bobby says nitrox is also good for kids that dive. It reduces micro nitrogen bubbles in growth plates. New sponsor. I got hooked on Celsius, you guys, since Cody brought it up. And I did message him. I'm like, can I just get a t-shirt? Like, I really want to promote you guys in Bermuda. And they just ignored me. I'm like, anyway, 2 a day for like a year. That's a lot. But yeah, I don't think they're keen to sponsor me. I don't have the look. I don't have the look they're looking for. Hit their Instagram page. You'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, fitness models and that type of thing. They need to like drink less Celsius and train a lot harder to then get the look to promote that, which seems weird. I digress, you guys. Salute to everyone out there that is on the stream. Your views, your engagement, your comments, your likes, your dislikes, your hearts, all of that does matter. It all helps. Shout out to all of our sponsors. My buddy Raul says, "Sir, let's mix nitrox." I'll talk to Andrew tomorrow. We talked about this before, but certainly Raul is chiming in from the commercial diving side. I mean, these are guys that are diving like they're not. There's like no rules, but certainly I work with Raul from time to time. I haven't been on the water with him, but we're breathing air, and it'll be wonderful doing even these shallow dives. To have nitrox. So we'll figure it out, man. We might have to do it old school. We'll talk about that offline. Telly Bermuda International and Blue Wave, thank you so much for your sponsorship. You make the show happen. Cody, Bobby, Raul, Magic, all you guys that engage with us tonight, thank you so much. Yes, Raul, I'll talk to Drew. We'll see how we can make that work. It won't be a new conversation, but it'll be new to us. I remember 3 years ago talking about getting the nitrox stick and doing all kinds of blending, but we don't even have a bank, bro. Like, we got to get a bank first, and then that's another story. Again, we'll talk about that offline. Jess, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything.
Absolutely.
Guys, any questions at all for Jess, instructor Jess, hit her up at Diving with Jess on Instagram and on Facebook. If you've got any questions for me, I don't know why, but I'm at Weldon Wade. Shout out to I think True Dive would love to be supporting a supporting sponsor thing as well. We'll talk about that another time. But shout out to my wetsuit distributor who are helping me do some really great stuff in the space. Yeah. Ubervida, Atlantic Mooring, Current Vehicles in Mammoth Lakes, Texas. Thank you for the love. But to our viewership, we did this for you guys. And yeah, that's all I gotta say, I think.
Yeah.
I think.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us this Wednesday. If we said anything in this episode that piqued your interest, we have a lot of other episodes in season 1 and season 2. This is episode 9 of season 2, so go back and check those out. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions that we didn't answer tonight, or if anything kind of pops up, feel free to send us a message or leave a comment here. If it's something that you don't want the whole world to know, feel free. Like, there is no such thing as dumb questions, but if you are ever nervous about it, you can always send us a direct message, and we'll happily get back to you on that.
Appreciate you guys. But until next time, whew, we are gone.